Hello and welcome back to Sailing Beyond Knowledge episode 2. Thanks for joining us again this week. Pascal Kunchikoy couldn't make it with us today, but we do have a very distinguished guest that you will be hearing me talk to today. And he is an exceptional documentary filmmaker based in Hollywood. His name is Jose Escamilla. And if you're interested in visiting his website and learning more about his work, I'll give you the website address now. It's www.joseescamillafilms.com. That's www.joseescamillafilms.com. And his other website is moonrising-themovie.com. That's moonrising-themovie.com. And those websites are very informative, and you can watch some excerpts from his films on there. One of his latest films is Moon Rising. And it's basically a documentary about the Clementine satellite that took about 1.8 million photographs of the moon. And Jose Escamilla was studying these photographs, and it's a documentary about what he found. And it's absolutely fascinating and earth-shattering documentary, and I recommend anybody to watch it. He's also produced many films over the last 15 years. In 2006, he's known for UFO, The Greatest Story Ever Denied, which contains lots of interviews with different government officials and distinguished people who have worked within the area of CIA and NASA, and have a lot of stories to share. And it's basically about disclosure, really. And it's very interesting and, again, educational. It's worth going to see that or purchasing DVD. And also Interstellar, which he made in 2007, is a very interesting film documentary about creatures and UFOs, or unidentified flying objects that cannot be seen with the naked eye, which is really interesting because I personally feel that we have to go beyond measuring what we perceive as reality, beyond our human five senses. And science is only just beginning to acknowledge that as well. So Interstellar is about what can be recorded on digital camera equipment and shown that the eye cannot see. And it's something, I haven't seen the whole documentary yet, but I've seen excerpts, and it looks a very interesting film documentary. And the latest project that Jose Escamilla is working on is called Lunar, and he'll talk a bit about that today as well. So I'm very honoured to have Jose Escamilla agree to do this interview, and I know that he is interested in this show because it's sharing the same quest as him and his work, which is just to help wake people up, really, and just offer another perspective of what is happening around us and what has been happening around us past few years and what we're leading up to. So it really is worth seeing his films and getting to know his work, because he's very valuable to the new consciousness, and you'll hear an interview with him today. So I'll leave you with that, and I'm just about to play some Beethoven for you. which is called Moonlight Sonata, Opus 27, Number 2, Movement 1. That's by Mario Aguirre. So you can visit his website to have a look at all the films, and I do recommend you visit those websites and get to know Jose Escamilla's work, because it's very educational and just very valuable work. It's worth watching and passing the information on to as many people as you know as well. So you can also buy his DVDs and of his films at those websites, and I hope you will enjoy the interview that we have with him today. His latest movies that he has produced are UFO, The Greatest Story Ever Denied, which he filmed in 2006, and Interstellar in 2007. And Moon Rising was made and completed last year. He's working on another project at the moment called Lunar, which is also to do with the moon. So we'll be talking to him about his work and those latest films.
CBS Radio presents the news. From Washington, here is Bob Pierpoint.
Another larger Sputnik with a dog named Curly aboard is now whirling around the Earth 1,000 miles out in space. The Russians launched an 1,100-pound satellite late last night, and so far both Sputnik 2 and its K-9 passenger are reported doing well.
The dramatic achievements in space which occurred in recent weeks should have made clear to us all, as did the Sputnik in 1957, the impact of this adventure on the minds of men everywhere who are attempting to make a determination of which road they should take.
Radio Moscow started broadcasting time schedules for its latest satellite a short while ago, with the announcement that Sputnik 2 will pass over Washington, D.C. in just a few minutes from now. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, well-known associate director of the Smithsonian Observatory at Cambridge, Massachusetts, was asked if the half-ton weight of Sputnik 2 indicated the Russians might have a war rocket powerful enough to reach this continent from the Soviet Union. It certainly indicates they have the capabilities of launching an intercontinental ballistic missile, replied Dr. Hynek.
Now it is time to take longer strides. Time for a great new American enterprise. Time for this nation to take a clearly leading role in space achievement, which in many ways may hold the key to our future on Earth.
Dr. John S. Reinhardt, also with the Smithsonian Observatory, commented after studying figures on the new Soviet satellite, "I firmly believe the Russians could reach the moon in a few days."
I believe we should go to the moon. But I think every citizen of this country, as well as the members of the Congress, should consider the matter carefully. Every scientist, every engineer, every serviceman, every technician, contractor, and civil servant gives his personal pledge that this nation will move forward with the full speed of freedom in the exciting adventure of space. We go into space because whatever mankind must undertake, free men must fully share.
On January 25, 1994, the Deep Space Program science experiment known as Clementine was launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base. Clementine was able to deliver more than 1.8 million digital images between February 26 and April 22, 1994. These images were quickly accessible to the general public on the World Wide Web. In 1994, President Clinton cited the Clementine mission as one of the major national achievements in aeronautics in space.
By going to the Clementine Lunar Image Browser 1.5, you can find many images that have been smudged or blurred to keep you from seeing what is there. Click on the desired resolution section and choose 1 pixel equals 1 kilometer option. Then by going to the image size in pixels option, choose 768 by 768. You are now ready to see for yourself a huge object on the surface of the moon. On the moon map, you will easily see a dot on the top of this crater and on the lower left. Click on the black dot on top of the crater and a close-up image of this section appears in the browser. What you see is a huge object resting at the top of this crater. It appears to be a large machine or perhaps a large spaceship or a motor of some kind. You can clearly see this photograph has been smudged over and blurred so we cannot see the details. This little gem was discovered and brought to the attention of moon researchers all over the world by Joseph P. Skipper on May 28, 2004. I decided to hire an imaging forensics expert to take this photo and to try and remove the blurring to reveal what is underneath. Jim Horrocks, an imaging forensics expert who has worked with the Los Angeles Police Department, was sent this photo, and his findings were written in a report he submitted to the production. First of all, the astounding measurements he made reveal an object that is 10 times the size of Los Angeles. 10 times the size. This in itself is an incredible detail about the size of this object. By using Adobe Photoshop and some of the filters available within the program, we were able to see more of the details that were lost due to the blurring applied by whoever did this for NASA and the Clementine mission archives. This enormous object seems to be some form of a machine or possibly a spacecraft. In all the enhancements made independently, it appears there may have been what appears to be a giant humanoid wearing a jumpsuit and possibly working on the front portion of this contraption. This may or may not be a giant humanoid. Perhaps the shadows seem to reflect something of a human form. We will never know until NASA releases this photograph unblurred and with the clarity available for us to see. By clicking on the new lunar map now available, you will now see that the same crater is available for viewing in all its clarity. There is no object there anymore, and there is no smudging of anything near or within the crater. We have to ask ourselves, if there is nothing on the moon that suggests alien moon bases, strange structures, machines, and possible civilizations thriving there, then why has there been a deliberate tampering of these and thousands of images we will present here in this film? One of the many challenges I had to deal with in making this film was how the structures on the moon were to be presented. Unfortunately, most of all the Apollo and Orbiter photos are black and white. Many photos are in low resolution, so zooming into them for a closer look causes the photos to blur and become pixelated, making it impossible to see details of what's on the surface. While I was designing a poster for the film in Photoshop, I decided that I did not want a black and white photo in the background of the poster. So I decided to color the background image I was using so I would have a full color poster for the film. I took some full color aerial photos of landscapes that closely resemble the distances of the moon's surface, turned them into black and white photos, and compared them to the moon photo I was about to airbrush. Noticing the different shades of the aerials from Earth and the colors represented, I then started making a color palette in Photoshop. All I did was airbrush the colors onto the moon photo as they appeared on Earth. But the structures and other objects on the moon revealed themselves. I was so overwhelmed at the results, I have now colorized over 247 photos. Now that I had come up with a format and a routine for colorizing the moon, I decided to gather the most famous Apollo moon anomaly photos that researchers from all over the world had been presenting for years and decided to colorize them. This is one of the many original NASA photos that has some very unique anomalies, especially here in this area. This is what it looks like after we bring up the contrast to eliminate the brightness applied to distort the image. And this is what it looks like after applying my colorizing process to it. So remember, these are colors and tones I used from Earth photography applied to the moon's surface. With Earth colors applied, you can see all the details with depth perception as never before.
By painting the moon with Earth colors and tones, we can now see what has been there all along for us to view.
I got started in this probably in the mid-1990s, listening to Hoagland on the old Coast to Coast AM radio program with Art Bell, and he was talking about the stuff that he'd found on the moon, and some images and some things that clearly appeared to be structures. They were very anomalous, and he was noting that there were thousands upon thousands of photographs that had been taken of the moon by the various unmanned probes and then the astronauts that had orbited the moon. And he said, you know, Art, anybody can do this. And what I realized is, A, I'm anybody. B, I think I understand the arguments. I'm an engineer by trade, so aerospace engineer, so I may not be an architect, but I certainly know structure when I see it. And I started looking at the evidence that he presented, and I just got fascinated by it. I created a web page called the Lunar Anomalies homepage, which still exists, and it was all dedicated to stuff on the moon.
The Hubble telescope has taken the most incredible photography of deep space and far off in the vast universe. When you see these spectacular scenes, you can't help but wonder how many others live out there. So when NASA was asked by scientists and astronomers when the Hubble telescope would be used in photographing the moon, NASA's reply was that because the moon was too bright, it would be impossible to get accurate photography of the moon. The first photo was released from the Hubble Space Telescope in 1999. Needless to say, the scientists and astronomers were not too pleased at how NASA had deliberately lied to them. When I heard about this photograph, I thought for sure we would see the moon in full color. But of all the photos taken by the Hubble telescope of the moon, they are in black and white. After colorizing all these photos, you can't help but learn the moon's layout. After all, it is a small planet compared to Earth.
Prepare yourself for an incredible expedition as we now take you back to the moon on a voyage filled with mystery and secrecy.
I'm not sure why NASA has not told us what's on the moon. In a way they have told us, because the pictures are there and there's hundreds of them. So anybody can do what I did and go and look at the pictures and enlarge them and see what there is.
NASA has been there, but we haven't been back since 1972, and you got to sit there and wonder why that is. It's our closest celestial neighbor in the heavens. You can see it every night when you walk outside, and really there's so much mystery about it still to this day. Many people seem to think that the Apollo program answered a lot of these questions, and in many ways it did, but we, the general public, have never been privy to any of those answers.
Is there already somebody there? And is there even a secret space program that we don't know about, that maybe even NASA doesn't know about, that's been to the moon and back and using very advanced technology?
A cover story that's based entirely upon the premise that there is absolutely no life there, and that there's no life to be found, past, present, at all. That's simply not the case.
So I certainly believe that some of the stuff that we're finding on the moon may be alien, extraterrestrial in origin. It may be ruined, ancient, abandoned extraterrestrial ruins. Some of it may be active, and some of it, in fact, may be our own stuff.
I don't think there's any possibility that NASA is not aware of the civilizations on the moon and the structures. They're very obvious, easy to see.
They are in contact with some of these extraterrestrial life forms. And they don't want you to know about it.
There was the guy that hacked into the NASA database and found some listings of non-terrestrial officers.
NASA may have made a deal with beings up there to not reveal their civilization, but then again, the pictures have the evidence. It's all in the pictures anyway.
The whole purpose to the cover-up is to prevent we, the plebeian masses of this planet, from gaining the appreciation that there is indeed extraterrestrial life out there, intelligent extraterrestrial life. And this is life that the government is very well aware of. The governments around the world, it's certainly not a U.S. issue. They're very well aware of it.
Because you've been lied to, you've been robbed of something that you deserve, which is to know what your true history is and what your true significance is in this world.
I really don't think people realize how deep the lie goes, how big it is, how unbelievable the cover-up is. This truly is the greatest story ever denied. It is the most amazing secret never told. It is the most monumental cover-up in human history. And hopefully, the public will take a movie like this and will begin to open up some doors, begin to open up some windows to the truth, whether it's from the government, whether it's from other insiders who can now come forward and begin to tell their stories of what they did and their involvement in this cover-up to get the truth out there. I think the world's ready for it. And hopefully a movie like this will push that forward a little bit and speed the process up.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
I really don't think people realize how deep the lie goes.
This is what NASA did. They took and just deliberately cut out the backdrop and made it black.
It is the most monumental cover-up in human history. At one point I asked him, I said, man, you guys, you lied about a lot, didn't you? And instantly he said, no, we didn't lie about certain things. We lied about everything.
There's a cheer in this room. This is Apollo Control Houston, switching now to the voice of Jim Lovell.
By 60.5, good to hear your voice.
Apollo 8, Houston, what does the old moon look like from 60 miles? Over.
Okay, Houston. The moon is essentially gray. No color. Looks like plaster of Paris.
Hello, Jose Escamilla, and thank you so much for coming on Sailing Beyond Knowledge. It's a real privilege to be able to communicate with you about your work and to talk to you about your latest film, Luna. I hope that this show introduces listeners from the European community to your work because it's very valuable contribution to consciousness and reveals a lot of truths that have been kept from us. So it's a real honor to speak to you today, and thanks again for being so patient with the technical problems that we've been having trying to record this interview when we were speaking live. So it's an absolute honor and privilege to have you stay with us and persevere with this interview. So firstly, I want to talk about the first major film that you released in 2006, UFO, The Greatest Story Ever Denied. And what were your personal inspirations to create such a groundbreaking documentary, and how did the public respond to the film documentary when it was released in 2006?
Well, the reason I made that film was I had watched the Peter Jennings story on UFOs. It was a 2-hour special here in the States. And after seeing what they did, I mean, you know, he had the first hour was really cool. They presented a lot of the UFO, research and evidence and everything else. And that was cool. But then the second hour, he has these skeptics that come on and they just blow everything out. They confuse the issue and totally destroyed all that was presented in the first hour. So I felt it a travesty, and I said, you know what, I'm going to make the kind of movie that no one will make, something that discloses the whole truth about the UFO myth and the way the military created it and, what went down with it. And that's why I created UFO, The Greatest Story Ever Denied. And I gathered up all the information of how the military took, UFOs and turned them into a myth by using scientists and astronomers of that era, the 50s and 60s, and turning it into a mythology rather than truth. So that film has gotten a lot of reviews and a lot of acclaim, and I'm glad that people like it because it's the kind of movie I would have wanted to see, but that no one was making. So that's how come UFO, The Greatest Story Ever Denied came about.
And with the material represented in the documentary UFO, The Greatest Story Ever Denied, what is your view on NASA and why they are so desperate to try and cover up material that you reveal in your documentary?
Well, the reason I did a sequence on the moon on that first film was because I wanted to cover as many bases, as far as the cover-up is concerned. So NASA happened to be right in there, along with the moon, the UFOs on the moon, the shuttle footage, and all that. And they've gone to great lengths to really eliminate anybody's questions about that. So my thing was, I wanted to present what has been done by these groups, the military, NASA, and astronomers and scientists, and that was just part of the sequences that had to be within that film. And it's been well received, I think.
I find the concept intriguing that there is a realm of beings and organisms and even realities beyond the measurement and capacity of the human five senses. I've always been aware of this since I was very young, and that's why I find it very inspiring to learn of the work you did with Interstellar, a film documentary using the recording equipment and technical equipment that was able to record and pick up on organisms that we just can't see with the naked eye. Would you please tell us a bit about this film documentary and your personal experiences?
Sure. Interstellar was brought about by a gentleman named John Leonard Watson, who contacted me in 2007, and what he'd been capturing through a telescope were huge objects that were posing as stars. In other words, from our vantage point here on Earth, when you would look up at the Big Dipper, you see the Big Dipper, but you don't realize that one of those stars is not a star, but it's a craft that's mimicking a star and actually orbiting around Earth along with a Big Dipper as it orbits, whereas the Earth turns. So, in other words, it's a big stationary craft, and it could be light years away, it could be in Earth orbit, or just beyond Earth orbit, past the moon. But it really intrigued me that these things he was capturing were on in space, and they're huge objects. I mean, they're as big as counties, if not as big as the state of California or bigger, And my question is, if there's beings on there, are they ours? Or if they're not ours, who or what is monitoring us from space in these large crafts? So, that's still a mystery that's, unfolding. And I'd like to get Leonard Watson back together with me and see if we can finally release this information to the public the way it should be. I'd like to fly him to the USA and have him set up his apparatus. And let's do one for IMAX, man. Let's do an IMAX film about the interstellar objects. That would be really interesting. Aside from that, the invisible spectrum of the infrared and the ultraviolet is opening up. Now we have camcorders where people can go out there and actually film in broad daylight in the infrared using filters and setting up the cameras a certain way. But there is a whole new spectrum of life within these light spectrums which are invisible to us. Trevor James Constable was the first one that photographed these things, and they're huge. I mean, some of these things look like amoebas. There are rods in there. Other huge, objects that are checking us out or existing within this reality. The dimensions of the ultraviolet and the infrared. So, technology has finally caught up to the UFO phenomenon, and I'm glad to be here where we're at now. And we'll be doing more films of that nature. You watch.
On many of the space footage in the documentaries, there are images of strange creatures resembling much like the large organisms of the deep sea. And you can see from pictures of the moon, they seem to be populating the whole surface of the moon. And they kind of look like large jellyfish, and from the pictures that you sent me, they're kind of amazing colours like blues and purples. What's your theory on these organisms?
Well, I think these are the same objects that the shuttle STS-76, I believe it was, or 75, was filming. These huge objects that were swarming over this 12-mile long tether out in the middle of space. And these are living organisms. And as you saw there in those photos that I sent you on the moon, in the full-color photography of the moon, you can actually see these things, and they're huge. And there's thousands upon thousands, if not millions of them, scattered, flying all over the surface of the moon in certain areas. So I do believe that these are living organisms. We call them organisms. We call them the dropas. And David Sarita did a big study on these, and come to find out that they are miles in diameter. They do seem to be living organisms, like giant jellyfish of some kinds. And they have all the behavior of a living entity. And they're immense objects. I mean, when you look at that tether footage, you realize that one of these objects alone is like 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles in diameter. And on top of that, what NASA doesn't tell you, and neither do these debunkers that are saying those are nothing but ice crystals, these things are traveling at about 18,000 miles per hour in different directions, keeping up with the tether, which is also moving, and also the shuttle is also moving at that speed. And they're also not telling you that they're filming these things using ultraviolet and infrared cameras. So there again, you know, NASA's not telling you the complete truth, that these objects were not visible to the naked eye of the astronauts, but they were visible because they were being filmed through ultraviolet and infrared cameras. They were visible by command and control. So this is, you know, these are one of the things, some of the things that people don't realize. What you see in this NASA stuff is all infrared and ultraviolet footage. It's not supposed to be there. It's invisible objects. So, and that's how come the tether was so bright, was because it was emitting an immense amount of heat that it created, you know, that big beam. It looked like a big giant neon light tube out there.
Moon Rising, the documentary you released in 2008, is an amazing example of how creative vision can lead to incredible discoveries. And I've also found it very moving and earth-shattering. So please tell us a bit about Moon Rising.
The reason I decided to do Moon Rising is because when I did UFO The Greatest Story Ever Denied in 2006, I did that segment on NASA in the moon. And boy, I started looking at these photos and saw so many anomalies in them that I decided I was going to make a whole film on the moon stuff. And sure enough, I started immediately back in 2006, and I actually finished it, Carlita. I just finished it this March, in 2009. So it's only been in release since March 2009. However, it was finding the things that were on the moon that were intriguing to me, you know. And I have to set for the record straight, man. The photos that I did in Moon Rising, that I airbrushed myself, it was by accident that I decided to airbrush it because I wanted a full-color poster for the movie. And I airbrushed one photo, and when I airbrushed it, all these anomalies popped out. So I decided to do that. And it wasn't until about 2 weeks before I was to deliver the film that I discovered the full-color photography taken by the Clementine mission in 1994. And that's how come I added that new full-color photography there at the end of the movie, towards the last 20-30 minutes. But if I'd have known there was color photography of the moon, I wouldn't have even bothered airbrushing, you know, the first photos that I did, that I presented at the beginning of the movie. But Moon Rising definitely, you know, brings you up close and personal to what NASA's been doing, how they've been also lying to us, you know, saying that the moon is gray and that there's no air or anything else in there. Now, all of a sudden, there's water. They're even admitting that there's a small atmosphere up there now. So, you know, the truth is being unraveled, whether through my films or other people's films. And NASA has just been, you know, caught with their pants down, and now they're just going to get a spanking, you know, monkey spanking, as they say, because they can't hide the truth anymore, you know. They've been found out, and the more they keep perpetuating the lie, the more we're going to bring out evidence that shows that they're lying. So they've been busted, and I'm glad that I'm part of that.
So, regarding references in Moon Rising to the effects of large impacts on the moon from rockets and how it vibrates like a bell, and also the earlier October bombing this year with regard to alleged searches for water on the moon. With that in mind, I also want to refer to the tsunami that happened in Asia a few years ago from the alleged earthquake that was supposed to have caused it, and references scientists made with the earth vibrating like a bell, which obviously reveals in scientific terms that the earth is possibly hollow. Now, what's your theory on that?
I've always been a proponent of the hollow earth theory. I just didn't buy it that the earth would remain solid after spinning for, you know, trillions and gazillions of miles, as it was a hot molten piece of rock, as they say it is, or it was. And it's proven in physics that, you know, when you spin something solid and you turn it and spin it at a great amount of speed, all of the lighter elements on the surface of the object are going to, just fly off. The interior is going to form into a perfect circle inside, a hollow circle. So that's why I believe that the Earth is possibly hollow. The tests that were done by the astronauts on the moon, MIT scientists, they even admitted, hey, this thing rang like a bell for hours upon hours, and possibly proving the theory that the moon could be hollow. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming out regarding it. I do believe that there's a possibility the moon is not even a satellite. I think it's a small planet with a hollow interior. And some other interesting things is that when the astronauts were trying to drill on the surface of the moon, there were certain areas that were solid titanium steel. So, what's going on here? I mean, if this is just a rock and it's made out of dirt and dust and stuff, why the heck do you have solid titanium steel covering vast amounts of the area, unless it's a artificially made orbiting object? And, bombing the moon, the last lacrosse mission that went over there, and they said, hey, we think there's water. They've known there was water on the moon since 1971, okay? There was a huge vapor cloud that was monitored by NASA's instruments that lasted for over 13 hours over a space of about 100 square miles, and they know there's water up there. This is why they kept these full-color photographs out of the public view, because once you look at these full-color photos, you can definitely see there's water there. There's evidence of water. There's clouds. There appears to be smoke on the surface of the moon from, lunar mining, perhaps. So, when you look at these black and white photos that they've sold the public, you just don't see. I mean, you don't have any depth of field. You don't have any color to register depth of field from. And I am so glad I found these full-color photographs on the USGS website, because that opens up a whole new venue for us. And people start looking at these full-color photographs, you're going to see things. There's just no doubt about it that the moon is in full color. It's not a desolate piece of rock as we've been sold. So I'm just glad that I found these color photographs. It's just amazing. Every one that I see that I bring out is just amazing. While I was doing my film Luna, I mean, in that movie you're going to see a lot of good stuff.
So your latest work, Luna, is a sort of follow-up from Moon Rising. Please tell us about Luna and what listeners can expect to see in this film.
First of all, Luna turned out to be a film that I wanted to make that would have people such as John Lear and Richard Hoagland and a few other people, but I was not able to get the scheduling done or the budgets together in order to film these people. So what I've made with Luna is I've just made it an incredible journey back to the moon, and now you have all the tools before you. You are shown how to look at the territory and the surface down below, so that you can see the actual perspectives that you're looking at. A lot of the things that NASA doesn't tell people is a lot of the photography that they shoot is not shot straight above from above the moon. It's shot at an angle. All right? You have to realize that these orbiting missions, the orbiters they're flying across the surface of the moon much like an airplane, the curvature, and everything is being shot at an angle. And you have perspectives. Once you realize this, then you'll be able to see buildings and structures, domes, all sorts of things. You can even see vegetation down there. So Luna is going to be another neat movie to watch, because it has a lot of anomalies that are instantly seen. You can register them with a naked eye. We don't even need to point arrows at these things or circles or anything of that nature. Once you see the footage, you'll definitely get it. I mean, unless you're totally blind or colorblind or something. But even then, you'll see the structures. I mean, if you look at these perspectives that you're taught to at the beginning of the film. I'm excited about Luna, and it's available on pay-per-view right now on TVLN.com. So, as many people as you can, try to get in there and look at the film. It'll definitely open your eyes to what's going on the moon.
With the depth of your work contributing to unveiling truths previously denied to the public, how do you see the future of humanity developing as people begin to understand the depth of lies that have been fed to them over the years, and how do you feel we can evolve to overcome political corruption?
Well, the way I look at things, once disclosure is made, if it ever is made, I think what we need to call it is discovery. Okay, because it's we the people that are going to have to discover for ourselves what the truth is, because they're not going to tell us, you know, and they're using that for their political means and political strengths to overshadow our perceptions. We as a human race, you know, need to get involved and make our own discoveries. That's what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, ever since you're a baby, you come out discovering things, you know. But when you get lazy and you're told that is not correct, that you know, that it's a lie, that there's no such thing as flying saucers and stuff like that, that's when your discovery system just goes into total dormance. You know, you become a dormant vessel, sheeple, if you call it. You know, a sheep. You know, you're just dormant-minded. But we all need to discover for ourselves what's going on. That's why I make these movies, because I want to teach you what to look for and how to look at it. And then you're on your own. Once you see what's there, you can get on the internet and do the same thing we all do and start discovering for yourself what's going on, because the truth is there. And it's at your fingertips now. I mean, there's no excuse to say, well, you know, I'm not into that, I don't know where to go. It's right there, man. It's right there in your face, at your fingertips. Go for it, man. Make your own discoveries about this. The politicians are always going to lie to you, you know. They'll never tell you the truth, because if they did, they wouldn't have a job. So, and as far as NASA and the military, UFOs and presidents and all that stuff, forget about it, man. You know, just get in there and do your own discoveries. Discovery for yourself. Believe me, once you see what is there on the moon, when you look at Luna and these color photographs, once you see what's there, it starts to make you think, man, what if somebody else is living up there, has been observing us all this time, and for whatever political reasons, or, you know, geopolitical or monetary situations that the powers that be don't want you to know, they've kept it from you. But now there's no excuse. It's time for you to make your own discovery about things, because they are very real.
And finally, just wanted to say thank you again, Jose Escamilla, and it's been a great privilege and pleasure to talk with you today. And if there's anything else you'd like to add, please do, and I hope you come back to the show and we can overcome our previous technical glitches by interviewing you live, and just want to wish you all the best for your future projects. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Carlita, and yeah, too bad about those technical problems, but, you know, I'll keep doing movies. I'm going to, you know, keep pushing the envelope. I'm eventually going to get into major feature film making. I want to do a film called The Battle of Los Angeles. I have one more moon film that I'm making. It's called The Planet Moon, and it's for the IMAX large screen venues. I'm going to make one. I got to do an IMAX film once for all. And I have interest from Wes Studi, who is a very famous Native American actor. He's starring in Avatar, by the way. He plays the chief, or the Native American there. So, planning to do that sometime next year. And I'm going to finish making the series of UFO, The Greatest Story Ever Denied. I'm going to do UFO, The Greatest Story Ever Denied Part 3, which is going to be called The Human Record. And in it, it features all of the UFO footage gathered through the ages, drawings and things, photos. And the true heroes, man, these are the guys that get out there and actually record this for posterity, for the human record. And there's guys all over the place, in Mexico, in Europe, you know, myself included. You know, I go out there and film UFOs and rods. So, you know, we are the ones that are putting together the human record for future generations, and that's what that film is going to be about. And that'll be ending the trilogy. And like I said, I want to plan on making mainstream features. I want to do The Battle of Los Angeles. I've written a screenplay, and it's going to have some dynamite actors in it. You know, we're going to be talking to major stars to star in it. So, and it won't be a documentary. It's going to be the story about the Battle of Los Angeles. We're recreating the battle in a way that you've never seen before. It's going to be breathtaking when you see the footage. And aside from that, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be on your show. And we will overcome those technical glitches. Next time we'll do a live show. So, Carlita, thank you again, and I will talk to you soon. I urge all your listeners to keep tuning in to Sailing Beyond Knowledge Radio. Thank you again. I enjoyed doing your show. Thanks.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine, Jose. Thank you so much again for coming onto the show. And I'm sure the listeners will really enjoy the information you parted with us and shared with us. So that's wonderful. So that was Jose Escamilla, and there's a man with perseverance and vision and real integrity. And I'm just so pleased that he shared with us what he knows, and I really recommend you see his film, especially the latest film, Lunar. Very educational, visually educational, and a real eye-opener in every way. And I also recommend you see all his other films, and you can visit his website, as I said earlier. The address is also in the summary that accompanies this podcast. So thanks again, and I hope you all enjoyed that, and I'll see you all again next week on Sailing Beyond Knowledge.
February 25th marks an anniversary that few remember and some refuse to forget. In 1942, an unidentified object was seen hovering over the California coast. The military, poised to defend the coast from a foreign invasion, took aim and fired. The event, called the Battle of Los Angeles, made headlines. What was in the sky and where did it go? Filmmaker and UFO researcher Jose Escamilla highlights the events of that night.
What happened at 2 in the morning, some objects entered into our airspace. One of them hovered right over Santa Monica and Culver City. Some described it as a round, dome-shaped object that was about 100 feet diameter. Some of them said it was a little smaller. But the unique thing about it is the military, the Army, started firing at this thing for about an hour, hour and a half, but they could not bring the object down.
Within 24 hours, the Department of War sent a memo to the President detailing the incident as possibly unidentified airplanes flying at various speeds and declaring the investigation ongoing. But that came to an abrupt end when the Army declared the flying object a weather balloon, sparking theories of a government cover-up.
If they can't bring down a weather balloon with over 1,500 rounds of anti-aircraft shrapnel, 12 pounds weaponry, what are they going to do against a real enemy target? That's what they decided. What do? Do we tell the American and the world public there is something among us that we cannot bring down, we cannot control, we don't know where they're from, and we don't know what they're doing here? No, they didn't want to say that. So the next best thing to do was to just officially deny their existence. That's when the first official denial on UFOs started.
We're speaking about UFO with small u, small f, small o, things seen in the sky. In wartime, you're going to see lots of things in the sky. Some's there, some is not. But looking at the Battle of Los Angeles as some kind of capital U, capital F, capital O event is pretty silly. We're talking about a case, there are no surviving witnesses, documentation is spotty at best, and it's the fairy tale syndrome, long ago and far away.
So what did happen that February night? The government stands by its claim that it was a weather balloon, but skeptics still say it was the first in a long line of UFO cover-ups. For MSNBC.com, I'm Darrell Brown.
sailing beyond knowledge. Like my great friend Carlita, who's actually got a podcast called that, Sailing Beyond Knowledge, and you know, in a sense, that's what I've been doing. I've been getting out of the chokehold of information, which I'm really flowing into a state of knowing.